This is the Detroit Sports Podcast Network.
What's up, Detroit sports fans? Welcome to the Fan Report, a show made by fans for fans, powered by the Detroit Sports Podcast Network. I'm Nick, and with me, Sanders going to give us this week's topic.
Well, as the draft inches closer, it'll be about a week away once this podcast release. We still have no idea what the Lions are going to take. And the Pistons just wrapped up their season, so we'll give our final thoughts on how we think this year went. It's your Fan Report.
It is almost time for this city's Super Bowl, the NFL Draft.
I mean, we already had a party in the city last week.
We did, and it was probably the biggest party revolving the Detroit Lions we have had since the previous time the Super Bowl was here.
It's the only parade we're ever going to get.
Potentially,
Football
yes.
related. Football related.
Potentially,
yes.
yes.
We're going to get.
Draft day is next Thursday. The Lions hold 2, 32, and 34. We have a lot to talk about in that regard. Malik Willis is here today, as of Tuesday, visiting with the Lions, and there seems to be some growing speculation that Malik Willis could be the pick at number 2.
And
there's a lot of fans and even local media voices that are buying into that. You've heard some of the shows on the local radio station 97.1 The Ticket being full go the whole time for Malik Willis at number 2. You've seen some.
Who's been on that train?
The Carson Anderson show.
Interesting. Okay.
Yes. You've seen some voices be staunchly against it to now being okay with it. Andrew, I want to hear your thoughts on Malik Willis at number 2. And I think I know what you're going to say.
That there's no quarterback in this draft good enough to take number 2.
Right. And I'm going to give you. I'm going to play devil's advocate here.
Interesting.
And I'm going to give you reasons why we could go quarterback at number 2, why Malik Willis could be the guy. And yeah, so Andrew, give me your thoughts, and then
that's all I was just about to ask you. Are you going to be playing devil's advocate for Malik Willis or for a quarterback in general? That's all I was just about to ask you.
Both.
Okay, interesting. Well,
I'll say this: I don't know if there's another quarterback in this draft that could even be considered a top 5 pick. I know Kenny Pickett's been thrown out there a lot. I personally think he's probably a top 15, top 20. I also kind of think the same about Malik Willis, but with the trend of quarterbacks in NFL drafts, you got to jump to get them. So, Andrew, give me your thoughts here.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, you basically started off how I was just about to start off in the fact that, like, if, let's just, for shits and gigs, say we're taking the quarterback at 2, I would agree that Malik Willis would have to be the pick there. But the question remains, is Malik Willis himself worth a number 2 overall pick? And I just don't think so. The workouts that we see from him, again, like I've talked about, I don't put too much stock in throwing to wide open receivers in a pro day. In real life, he does miss open windows. He does tend to miss throws deep. He needs to improve his ball on the run. But like, he's a style of quarterback I think that's perfect for today's NFL. And with his style, I think there are a lot of redundancies in the weaknesses of that style of quarterback. But in general, if I'm picking a quarterback at number 2, I need a franchise guy. And I feel like a lot needs to pan right with Malik Willis for him to be that. I feel like there are still a lot of question marks to his game. He just has by far the highest ceiling, I feel like, of any quarterback in this draft, which is why I'm saying if you're taking a quarterback at 2, then yeah, sure, take Malik Willis. But yeah, no, I don't see it. Not that I trust Jared Goff at all, but at this point, I think we're not really going to be that good this year either. And I would just wait and see what we get in the quarterback class for 2023.
So I agree with pretty much everything you said. I'm not sold on a guy from Liberty coming into the NFL and being able to play quarterback in this league. I don't think that there's really any film that you can look at and say, okay, this guy can read an NFL defense. This guy can pick apart safeties. This guy can pre-snap, make any kind of pre-snap reads. Throw off a defensive back that's in a zone by using his eyes. When in all reality, he didn't have to do any of that at Liberty because, well, no defenses really could disguise that way and could play that way. So the competition that was there, you play who's on the other side of the ball, no doubt about it, and he was successful at that. But the level of competition is, if college is a huge step below the NFL, what he played against at Liberty is a far larger step.
Is he? Because I know we've discussed this at length too. I'm just curious what your view on this is. Is Malik Willis the Chet Holmgren of the NFL draft?
I mean, that's a fair comparison.
Not saying that he's a top overall pick. I'm just saying in terms of the bust potential versus the high upside kind of thing.
I'm going to say no, because Chet Holmgren is something I don't know that we've ever seen. Mm-hmm. He's a unicorn who is the only thing really holding him back is his body. Mm-hmm. Malik Willis isn't really a unicorn. He's just a dual threat, severely talented quarterback that we've seen before. I mean, Lamar Jackson was that guy in college. Look at Russell Wilson was that guy in college. Pat Mahomes was that guy in college. Like, we've seen this type of quarterback before. So to say that he's comparable to Chet Holmgren, not really, because Chet Holmgren is a guy who his body really is the only thing that knocks him down, and he's a super rare breed. At the very most, like at he's probably a unicorn in the sense that I don't know that we've ever seen a guy like this. We've seen guys like Malik Willis before, several times, every year, in fact.
The reason I just threw that comparison out there is because I feel like the discussion on Malik Willis is so much more potential based than what he actually is at this moment, which I also feel is a lot of what the discussion is centered on with Chet Holmgren.
I 100% agree with you there. Like, if you're taking that angle with it, yes, you're right. It is all about potential, what the ceiling could be with Malik Willis and Chet Holmgren. Yeah,
I guess the more accurate comparison would be Shaden Sharp. But
that's
unlike
fair. That's
fair.
Yeah.
Shaden Sharp, Malik Willis did actually play in college.
He did, just at Liberty. So I'm going to start off with playing devil's advocate here, is giving you reasons why we should look at quarterback, and that quarterback should be Malik Willis.
At 2?
At 2.
Okay.
You're not going to get him at 32. There's no doubt about that. And frankly, the rest of the quarterbacks in this draft class are not good. They're not worth moving up for to get them in the 20s, I'll tell you that. So it's either 2 or it's trade back from 2 and then take them at like 5, 12, 19, wherever you can trade back there. But I don't know many teams that are going to come up to 2 to take somebody that's not a quarterback. So here's my thoughts. With the upgrades the Lions have made in the offseason, what we expect them to go in the draft, I don't think this team is going to be bad enough to put themselves inside the top 5 again. I don't. I firmly believe that. I think with the other teams that are out there, the Falcons, the Saints, you name it, there's a lot of the Jets, there's a lot of really, really bad football teams in there that are far worse than the Lions are, especially with the upgrades they made on the offense side of the ball, bringing back Frank Ragnow, bringing back a healthy TJ Hawkinson, bringing in DJ Chark, continuing to build DeAndre Swift and Amon-Ra St. Brown. I don't think this offense is going to be bad enough to where they're not winning at least 4 or 5 games. And if you're winning 4 or 5 games next year, you're probably at 5 or outside the top 5. So looking at the QB class, there are 2 guys that are the cream of the crop, that are the guys that people need to go after. CJ Stroud and Bryce Young. There's no doubt about it. Those are the 2 guys. The next tier, Spencer Rattler from South Carolina. How was he this year? Tyler Van Dyke from Miami. Who? Jaron Hall from BYU. Grayson McCall from Coastal Carolina. Will Levis from Kentucky. Phil Jerkovich from Boston College. I mean, what of those names, which one excites you?
Only heard of one of them.
Exactly. Exactly. So is that group of quarterbacks better than Malik Willis? No. I don't think they are.
Well, I can't say. I don't think you can definitively say the way. I don't know what they're going to do next year, but
right now, and
for the sake of the argument, yeah, right here, right now.
Okay,
sure.
Because you're probably not going to be in on CJ Stroud and Bryce Young. And let's be real, that Rams pick is not going to be enough to get you to trade up from, let's go with 6 or 7 to 2 to get one of those two guys. Because I promise you, one of those two guys probably going 1-2. If you don't get one of those two in CJ Stroud or Bryce Young, then you are in a situation where you take the next best guy in Spencer Rattler, Tyler Van Dyke, or Jaron Hall and hope they pan out, even though they're not highly rated prospects, as highly rated prospects, and they're probably worse than Malik Willis in terms of prospect ranking. And oh, by the way, your other option is Jared Goff and re-signing him. So all we did was punt this damn thing another year down the road. Again, you kind of got to strike while you have the opportunity in this league to get the guy at quarterback. That's just kind of a fact. Because you're not going to, the league is structured to where you're likely not going to have the same opportunity to get the quarterback, be that high in the draft year in and year out. Certain teams have beaten that mold, like the Lions in some years, and like the Jaguars, and like the Jets, but the league is structured to where you don't suck every year. So Malik Willis being a better prospect than guys like Rattler, Van Dyke, Hall, McCall, yeah, that kind of does make me say, okay, we have an opportunity to do it now. Maybe we should, because I don't really want to see Jared Goff for 3 more years. The other reason is we do have Jared Goff, and he can play this year, and he can be serviceable this year. He can continue to build with Swift, Hawkinson, and that O-line, and St. Brown and Chark, and see what we get there. And the rookie wide receiver that I'm assuming we take in this draft. The pass rush class is deep in this draft, just like wide receivers. You can get a guy like Karlaftis in the late teens, early 20s from Penn State if you want to move up to go get him. There's options there. The linebacker class, Nakobe Dean's looked at it as a late first rounder. There's a great player from a great team in Georgia. There's a lot of options you could go with at linebacker or pass rush late in the first round. And if you really wanted a certain guy, trade up to go get him. You're not going to be able to make that opportunity with Malik Willis most likely because if recent history is any tell-all, he's probably gone before 15. The other reason is look at quarterbacks like Pat Mahomes, Lamar Jackson. Look at how they were viewed going into the draft, saying that they're running quarterbacks. They aren't polished. They haven't run a pro style offense. They don't know how to read a defense. Well, look at them now, and it's an unfair comparison, no doubt, but at the same time, a grade at a quarterback that's not, he's ready to play now, happens every year. And they still can turn out to be good. So you take the guy and you develop him. He's got a year to sit behind a veteran quarterback. He's got a year to work with your QB coach and your offensive coordinators and your positional coaches to get comfortable in this league.
You know, when you play devil's advocate, I can never tell if you're serious.
Some of these arguments I actually do agree with. I'm not gonna lie. I'm not gonna lie to you. I do actually agree with.
That's what I'm saying, because you make it sound so convincing. They're like, wait a minute. So is this actually what he believes, or
beyond that? But beyond that, also, one of the things that bothers me the most about the Lions and the way that this organization has been run throughout my lifetime is they are overly safe when it comes to the draft. They don't take the bad guys. They don't take guys that. Look at guys like Joe Mixon. He doesn't even cross their desk. Well, look at him now. They decided to pass on Randy Moss and take Terry Fair because, Randy Moss was a bad dude. Well, Randy Moss is a Hall of Famer.
A Hall of Famer who fake mooned a crowd for a touchdown dance, but a Hall of Famer nonetheless.
Yeah, I'll take that. They're not willing to be sexy. They're not willing to be exciting. And I don't want to see another year where that continues, frankly. I want the Lions to do something exciting to change the course and the culture of this franchise. They say they're instilling a culture. Well, prove it. Because you won 3 games last year. That's not really instilling a culture in my mind. Do something to change what has been going on in this organization for the last 50-some-odd years. And that's be safe. Be risky. Take a guy that you have a chance to actually be successful. Because I'll tell you right now, the safe pick in Aiden Hutchinson, who as of today, really, or as of this week, looks to be a guy that potentially could be there at number 2, with the Jaguars having talked themselves out of Hutchinson and being enamored with Trayvon Walker or one of the offensive linemen in this draft. Hutch could be there, and that is the overly safe pick in my mind.
I pulled up 2 mock drafts before we went live today. I pulled up NFL.com and CBS. Both had Hutchinson going to the Lions.
Yep.
To the Lions.
I believe he's the betting odds favorite to land to the Lions. He's also the betting odds favorite to land number 1, so that doesn't really make sense to me, but that's just the truth.
Is that who? If he's there, is that who you go?
Hutch?
Like, regardless of who else is on the board,
No.
if Hutch is there at 2, is that who you go with?
And that goes to my next, topic here of the possibility of Hutchinson being there, and my answer is no. I'm not on the Hutchinson train. I haven't been. I don't like
We've both been on the Kayvon train.
Right, and I'm still on the Kayvon train. I think the guy has absolutely been blasphemed throughout the draft process. Like, I think people have dragged him through the mud because, what, he likes cryptocurrency? And he has goals outside of football? I would hope someone does. Football is important to these guys. Obviously, it's their job, it's their life, it's their career, it's everything to them. But it's okay for them to do things outside of football and build their brand and build their livelihood, because guess what? At some point, Father Time comes around and says, you can't play ball anymore. And when it comes to the NFL, that clock is a lot shorter than most sports.
I mean, Derrick Rose has been quoted as saying that when he's not like in practice on the court, he spends 0 time thinking about basketball.
So
not everybody lives, breathes the sport.
Right. And again, Kayvon Thibodeau is another one where the Lions passing on him and the reports came out that Dan Campbell doesn't like him. I don't give a shit. He's a damn good football player. We need damn good football players on this team. He's a guy who can be a game changer. Is he Myles Garrett? No. Is he Nick Bosa? No. But is he kind of in that next tier? Yeah, he is. And his ceiling could potentially be up there. He's a game changer. And Aiden Hutchinson, I don't quite know that he is.
And
He's
also,
a second fiddle type guy to a game changer.
Is it bad that I also, from what I've seen from Dan Campbell in his first season, that there's part of me that feels like he could be someone that can get Kayvon to buy in a little more than what most teams would expect?
I don't think that's a bad thing. I think Kayvon Thibodeau is one of the
am I overestimating Dan Campbell's ability? That's what I'm saying.
No, I don't think so. I don't think so at all. From what I've heard out of that camp and what we've always heard is Dan Campbell's a player's guy. He gets players revved up to play and ready to go for him. I wonder if he speaks as loudly to the bigger names on the roster as he does to the lesser names, because a rah-rah type guy like Dan Campbell tends to be able to hype up the lower tier players more so in the higher tier. But we have other personnel in this organization that can speak to guys like Kayvon Thibodeau. I think Aaron Glenn is a perfect example of a guy who can stare Aaron Glenn in the face and say, hey, big dog, let's play some football. And he's gonna respond to, someone staring him down in the face and getting him ready to go. And Aaron Glenn is that guy. He's a guy who commands respect in a locker room, and I think Kayvon Thibodeau would thrive with a guy like that. I don't care if the coaching staff doesn't like Kayvon Thibodeau. We need good football players here, and we need football players with potential. So if I had to rank the 3 names we've talked about here, it'd be Thibodeau 1, Willis 2, Hutchinson 3. Not saying I don't like Aiden Hutchinson.
That's not even a devil's advocate argument. You're saying you would take Malik Willis over Aiden Hutchinson
I probably would.
Oh, wow.
Frankly, I don't think either one should be taken at 2. I think both guys are trade back guys. But you're probably there's a chance you get Willis traded back when you trade back, but there's probably not a chance you get Hutchinson when you.
Well, I say the way draft boards are looking, it doesn't look like you can trade back and get Hutchinson.
Right. But the type of Aiden Hutchinson's going to be a really good football player in this league. Don't get me wrong.
Been more and more getting on the train of we should just trade back in this draft. If you're not going to take Kayvon Thibodeau,
you have to have somebody that wants to go there.
Yeah.
And there has to be the player that teams want to go get, and it's looking less and less likely that that's true.
Well,
because frankly,
Kayvon could be that guy.
I don't think he is. I don't think there's enough teams that want to move up to go get Kayvon Thibodeau. I don't think there's enough teams that like him because they're worried, he's not a football guy.
like for me, I've been trying to convince myself that the only reason that that the Lions came out and said they don't like Kayvon Thibodeau is to signal to teams, hey, if you want to trade up to jump ahead of someone to get Kayvon, talk to us, kind of thing. That's what I've been trying to convince myself of, as far-fetched as it sounds.
I don't think there's enough teams that want a guy like Kayvon Thibodeau. I don't. I think they're stupid, but that's my own personal beliefs about Kayvon Thibodeau. Because, I mean, in all reality, he's done nothing to not be looked at as the top guy in this draft. Like, he played good football all year, great football. Sure, he missed a couple of games or took a couple plays off. Every player does. The guy was the number one prospect when college football was done, and he's been knocked down a bunch of pegs. I don't understand it. And frankly, a couple of the teams that I would love to see trade up with the Lions to go get whoever they want it to. I mean, yes, the New York Giants at 5 and 7. I'll take both those picks for them to move to 2. I doubt that's going to happen. Another team I look at, the Saints at 16 and 19, and then you trade me your first or they don't have first next year, but your second round pick next year and probably like a 5th round next year. Yeah, I'd do that. I'd move back to 16 and 19. I'll have 16, 19, 32, 34. Hell yeah. Give me that all day. In this draft? You kidding me?
Assets.
I can go get George Karlaftis. I can go get potentially Drake London, potentially even Jordan Davis. Hell yeah, I'd do that.
Yeah.
And there's a lot of talk of the Saints trading up to, I want to say number 5 or number 7, one of the two, or 6. It might be 6, and giving that exact value. Well, go up a few more picks, get the guy you really want. I'll take the same value. I'll take 16, 19, 32, 34, and just build this team.
Yep.
I'll grab Karlaftis.
Just add in a promise that you stop trying to pursue Aaron Glenn, and then we have a deal.
I don't think that's ever going to happen. Like, that right there is frankly like that's my dream scenario for the Lions, is being able to trade out of that spot, because I don't know that there is a winning situation for the Lions at 2, because frankly, with the guys that are there that the Lions would even be looking at, I don't know that we'll ever get number 2 pick value out of them. And that's including Hutchinson, Thibodeau, Willis. Yes, those guys can have the most upside there. And I do think Hutchinson will be a really good football player in this league, but I don't know if he's going to be a game changer.
Yeah.
And number 2 pick requires game changer. So if the Lions get an opportunity to trade back, hell yeah, I'd want to. And don't even give me, I want Trayvon Walker. I don't think that dude's very good at football. I don't.
That's the number 1 overall pick, according to NFL.com.
Oh, he's been the consensus number 1 overall as of late, like across many people. The Jaguars are apparently in love with the dude. Trayvon Walker has a lot of great measurables. We talked
about for a while about going at 2. I remember a couple months ago
to the Lions. I mean, Trayvon Walker could again be. He's got a lot of upside, but he's got a lot of work to do to be good at football. That's for damn sure. Because he was in a really good defense at Georgia, a really good defense at Georgia, and he had no production as a pass rusher. None. I think he had like less than double-digit sacks his whole career there, combined. I'm looking for a double-digit sack guy in one season that spreads multiple seasons. Like, if I'm the Lions and the Saints come a calling saying, I'll give you 16, 19, our second next year and our 5th next year, something like that, and you give us your 7th next year, whatever, fine. Done. I'm going to get a defensive end. I'm getting a receiver. Hell, if Malik Willis is there, I might take him. I'm looking at...
What's the scenario that would make you come on here? I guess it'll be in 2 weeks. That would make you give the Lions an F.
I don't know that there's a situation where they could in that spot, frankly.
There's so many needs?
Because there's so many needs and so many names there. Like, even if they were to draft Sauce Gardner, I don't know that I could give him an F. I'd give him a D- because Jeff Okudah 2.0. Granted, I think Sauce Gardner is a far superior player to Jeff Okudah. I'll say that. I think Sauce Gardner could potentially be the best player in this draft, frankly.
Ooh. Oof. Sizzling take.
But I mean, if they went out and drafted Derek Stingley Jr., the cornerback from LSU, yeah, I'd probably give him an F. Like, that's not even the best player at his position. Even if they were to go wide receiver, I'd probably give him an F if they were to go wide receiver too, frankly. Well, no, I don't know that I would. Because I really want Drake London. I'd probably give him a D. Unless they went, like, a really Jahan Dotson. Like, then I'd be like, all right, dude, there's like 4 receivers better than this guy.
Yep.
It would take a lot. It would take a lot for them to get an F for me at this spot at number 2, just because of the fact that there is so much there. It's almost like a situation where on draft day, you can't really take a bad name there because you have so many holes and there's so many guys in this draft that could potentially fit those holes. Mm-hmm. Yeah, a year down the road, we could be looking at it and say, God, that was an awful pick. But I mean, we could be saying that if they take Kayvon Thibodeau and he's my favorite guy on the board. Are there any scenarios that you would give him an F?
As of right now, not really. Again, what I basically tried to fill in there was, there's so many needs for this team that, like, I'm almost willing to give any pick a shot. Obviously, there's going to be picks I like more than others. I mean, unless it's like you said, a clear reach. No, as long as you're taking one of the 2 best players at a position or trading back, I mean, I don't see any scenario where we don't do one of those things. Then no, I don't think I can give him an F.
Yeah, and that just kind of tells you, and this is primarily on the defensive side of the ball. Yes, they still have a couple holes offensively at quarterback and wide receiver. Mm-hmm. But this just goes to show you, we have to kind of be realistic with this team.
Yep.
We're still very far away. Yeah. Like, we need guys, defensively speaking, at every level. And at some of those levels, we need multiple guys.
Uh-huh.
At linebacker, we probably need a couple of them. At defensive line, we do need a couple of them. We need an interior and an outside guy.
Why I'm starting to become more and more of an advocate of trading back. Just get me more pieces in here.
I agree with you 100%. Like, if you were to tell me the Lions went to 16 and 19 and then had 32 and 34 and they drafted some combination of Jordan Davis, George Karlaftis, Nakobe Dean, and Treylon Burks, oh my God, I'd probably scream, or George Pickens, I'd probably scream A+ out the door.
Yeah, exactly, because this is not a top-heavy draft. This is
right.
Like,
it's like the difference between the guys you can get at 32 and the guys you can get in the top 10 is not as big as it is in most years.
Yeah,
it's not. God, that would be a dream draft. Jordan Davis, Karlaftis, Pickens, and Nakobe Dean. Woo! There's your defense. Still need a corner and a safety, but hell. Speaking of safety, I've heard a rumor that the Lions are like a dark horse candidate to land Tyrann Mathieu.
I did not hear this.
How do you feel about the Honey Badger coming to Detroit?
I'll take. I mean, he is definitely the downside of his career, but no, we really could use some safety help, so I'll take it.
Absolutely. And I'm not saying that I want to draft Kyle Hamilton at 2. I do not. You'd have to probably move me back to like 10 to get me to draft a guy like Kyle Hamilton.
How about this? I'll take it to entice us away from drafting Kyle Hamilton at 2.
Now, the Lions are not like the favorite to get him. I think they're actually in the odds race. They're like the 4th favorite to land him or 5th favorite. But like the fact that they're even mentioned in the conversation kind of surprised me because I didn't think that was even an option.
I didn't think he would even come here. So
I don't think he will.
Players at that stage of their career he's beginning his championship hunting stage.
Right. Speaking of the quarterbacks in this draft, though, I have heard a lot of experts, a lot of draft quarterback experts say that had Davis Mills stayed an extra year in college, he would be the number 1 quarterback prospect in this draft class.
Yeah.
Yeah, which, don't get me wrong, Davis Mills was not terrible last year.
But to talk about Davis Mills, the number 1 prospect is
pretty bad.
Yep.
Yeah. Where was he drafted? Like, not where, but like at what pick was he taken last year? Was he taken in the first round?
No.
Third round. Okay. So he was a third round pick last year. I mean, last year's quarterback draft class is pretty damn good. Well,
on paper.
On paper. It hasn't panned out that way just yet, but because have any of those quarterbacks been any good? Because Zach Wilson sucked, Trevor Lawrence sucked, Justin Fields was no good, Davis Mills was no good.
Although I do think Trevor Lawrence is...
He got a raw deal.
Yeah, I think he got a...
Trey Lance was okay at times.
Yeah, he played 2 games, and they were... Was it 2 games he started, I think? But yeah, he was solid.
Mac Jones was good. Mac Jones was pretty good. I'll give him that. He was probably the best quarterback of the year out of that class.
He was, and I still wasn't like that impressed with him. I mean,
for a rookie quarterback, he played pretty well. He did. So
move on to some hoops.
Let's move on to some hoops.
All right, so Piston season's over, and I'm gonna go call in the hole. All right. I'm kidding.
And we're now going to be hibernating for the next, 4 months before the season comes back? 5 months?
Yeah, well, no, we got draft talk in a month.
Yeah, we got draft talk in a month. All right, so we're going to hibernate for a month. We'll see you in a month.
Hibernate till the lottery. Okay. In all honesty, though, unless any news comes out, this probably will be our last Pistons topic for a few weeks. I don't see what else we talk about, but you never know. Anyways,
well, I mean, there's conversations we could have with Rookie of the Year. There's conversations we could have.
I was going to touch on that today.
I actually have an idea, and I'll pitch to you after we're done recording this episode here, of something that we could bring up for some Pistons talk, and it gets into, we have on this show in the past, and primarily on our live show, we did a lot of getting real nerdy with it when it came to the draft. I'm proposing a little bit of doing that on this podcast.
I like it.
All right, so let's
see where your head's at. I like it.
Let's go. Continue with what you were saying.
So yeah, the Pistons season came to a close last week, and I mean, there's a lot of things that I do want to touch on, but the first thing I want to touch on is actually something that was brought up on our local radio show. And I kind of want to get your take. So this is not an original topic. I'm going to throw it out there. But I am curious, because I found this a very interesting topic. Would you define this season as a success for the Pistons?
Oh, God, that's a loaded question and a half. Do I have to take a side, or can I sit on the fence like a pansy?
Well, you know what? I have a way we can approach this.
Because, okay, and here's my thought process behind that question. Like, at points, yes, there were successes that were made. Mm-hmm. But there were also points where I go, what the hell are we doing here?
Like, here's part of the reason I like this question a lot, is because of the fact that going into the season, I think both our win totals for the Pistons
were far higher than what they ended up with.
I think we both had them around like 35 wins or something.
We were very optimistic.
So they missed that by a pretty wide margin.
12 games, I believe. Or how many games?
Yeah, 12 games.
12 games.
23-59. But seeing what we saw to close out like post All-Star break, let's call it, just the way they gel as a team. Seeing the development we saw out of our younger guys like Sadiq Bey, some of the late development of Killian Hayes, seeing what Kay Cunningham brought to the table, Isaiah Stewart finally throwing out the deep ball in the last couple weeks this season.
You got a little bit of a potential scoring big man off the bench also at the deadline. Marvin Bagley. Granted, they got to re-sign him. I'm curious to what he's going to go for, though.
And still secured the odds, best odds at a top pick. Basically, all I'm saying is outside of the actual win total itself.
See, but I can also look at some things with guys like Sadiq Bey where, statistically speaking, his shooting numbers were terrible this year compared to last year. He took a step back in that regard. Jeremy Grant still is with this team, and we've come to the realization that this team with Jeremy Grant doesn't really flow very well. You've had some very minus players on this roster, one of those being Jeremy Grant, and he's still here, and we're still paying him $20 million, and he's going to want an extension. So there are some, and also, on top of that, the biggest question of them all in my mind is, Okay, there's two big questions. You don't know what you're... Because of the presence of Jeremy Grant, you don't really know what you need in the draft if you're going to narrow it down to one position. Two, there's still the question mark of, is Dwayne Casey the right guy to coach this team to when they're ready to win? The Raptors passed Dwayne Casey by because he couldn't get it done in the playoffs.
Mm-hmm.
Luckily, there's been Piston
we're
fans
a while away from having to make that decision.
I mean, I am too, but I don't know. A couple years. I think we're a couple years.
A couple years away.
With that being said, we had question marks for Dwayne Casey and how he ran the team this year. With the way he ran his lineups, with the way he, put things together and utilized certain pieces, we were pissed off with the way he was using Saddiq Bey and Isaiah Stewart this year. But until Jeremy Grant went down, and then his hand was forced.
And then a lot of the complaints that we had about Casey were kind of alleviated post All-Star break when he finally did move. I think she might have been before the All-Star break when he did move Killian to the bench and staggered the Killian Cade lineup, and then
that's when he started listening to our show.
When it, there you go.
That's when he started listening to our show. Like, dude, we gave you the formula on how to help this team succeed,
and not
all you got to do is make
Joseph
it happen.
27 minutes a night, like. But so you're saying you would say no, this season was not a success.
I can't say that because I think the positives outweigh the negatives here, but the negatives can't be ignored.
Yeah.
It's a minor success. It's a step forward. And actually a pretty sizable step forward.
Is a big part of it securing the best odds in number one pick again?
It's not 1, 2, or 3 for me, but it's still a big part. One would be Cade Cunningham being what we hoped.
Yep.
And honestly, probably better. 2 would be Saddiq Bey's emergence as a legitimate option on this offense. 3 would be Killian Hayes finding a legitimate role with this team and understanding what he needs to do to stay on this team.
Yep. Lockstep with you so far.
And frankly, 4, finding out ways to utilize guys like Isaiah Stewart, Marvin Bagley, that's probably number 4. And then probably number 5 would be that top 3 pick.
Yeah.
So, yeah, it's still important and still big, but it's not one of my top 4. I maybe I'm just being a little harsh. This year probably was a success.
I fully agree with you. I mean, I would call it a success because while I did have expectations of 35 wins, I wasn't expecting us to do anything in terms of playoffs or anything like that. So
there were a lot of growing pains this year. Go ahead, continue. Continue.
The 35 wins, the reason I had those expectations because I was expecting that step forward from Saddiq Bey. I was expecting Cade Cunningham to be what he ended up becoming. I was expecting Killian Hayes to find a role. So, like, a lot of things, a lot of those expectations.
I was hoping to see Cade have a little bit better shooting and fewer turnovers, which the shooting improved as the year went on, but the turnovers did not.
Yeah, they did not. So, like, what I'm getting at, though, is, like, a lot of the reasons I said around 35 wins actually came to fruition. It's just the wins didn't come. Right. So that's why I was saying I would still view season as a success in my view.
So what I was gonna say was, and I think this is kind of the story of the season was this year had a lot of growing pains and very painful growing pains. We watched a lot of struggling basketball and guys that we did not want to see struggled. And sometimes large increments of time. Saddiq Bey struggled for a long time, and we really worried about him. Isaiah Stewart struggled for a long time. We really
until he put that headband on, we were like, uh-oh.
And then he started to struggle even with the headband on at a point, too.
Then he took it off, and then we're like, uh-oh.
It was when he had the role change is when he hit his stride. He was still wildly inconsistent, but I think that's going to come with time also.
Yeah.
But with growing pains comes growth. And I think if you looked at this team this year and said we didn't have growth, I don't think you watched the Detroit Pistons this year. Yeah. Because there was growth. And there was growth with every player on this team that I would consider to be a key piece moving forward. Cade had growth throughout the year. Killian had massive growth throughout the year. Saddiq had big growth throughout the year. I think Stewart even grew as the year went on.
Yep.
Bagley grew. We finally saw some of that potential that was built in the draft, and we got him at the deadline for Josh Jackson and Trey Lyles.
Yep.
Mind you, the Kings wanted Sadiq Bey for Marvin Bagley last year.
Yep.
And they got Josh Jackson and
we
Trey
didn't do
Lyles
that one,
this
though.
year. Thank God, yeah. I think the growth was big this year. There was a lot of growth. Yes, it hurt to get there, but we got there, and we're here now, and we're able to kind of take some steps forward and start building a winning basketball team. Because, frankly, in my mind, this is the last year the Pistons should be picking inside the top 5, unless they get stupid lucky in the lottery.
I agree.
This is the last time, in my mind, the Pistons should be in the top 7 or even 8 of the lottery.
Yeah, like I can see us being a lottery pick in a lottery team in the 2023 draft.
The 12
assuming
through
we don't
15 lottery spots.
Yeah, exactly. And then by then I would expect us to have made a big free agency splash and
2
actually
years.
be competing.
2 years is where I set this timeline because Kate will be in his 3rd, Sadiq will be in his 4th, Killian in his 4th, Stewart in his 4th. You'll have that big free agency acquisition. You'll have whoever you take in this draft in their now second year. 2 years. And this team, I think, will be not necessarily done building, but ready.
Okay.
Growth.
Next question for you.
There's the key word of the season, growth.
Looking at this current roster, how many players would you say are part of the future?
Oh, boy. All right, let me pull up.
I can share my screen if you want.
I got the roster right in front of me.
All right.
All right. Cade, obviously.
Yes.
Sadiq, obviously. I'll be straight with you. I think those are the only 2 guys that are rock solid, written down in pen with the fancy quilt. Those guys are locked in.
I agree with you.
An erasable pen. I'm going to put guys.
You mean pencil?
No, erasable pen because pencil's even less. Because the erasable pen still leaves that little bit of residue that you can still see. I'm going to put Isaiah Stewart. I'm going to put Marvin Bagley. In pencil, I'll put Diallo. I'll put Killian. I'll put Isaiah Livers.
Isaiah Livers making the cut.
In pencil.
In pencil.
Beyond that, you know what? In pencil, I'll put Jeremy Grant also. Even though I think he is the lowest as you can get in pencil.
Yeah, well, we're gonna basically if we don't trade him this offseason, he's part of the future. That's what it is.
That's right. And I'm scared. Beyond that, though, I like Diallo. I mentioned Diallo in pencil, right? Yes.
Yeah, you did.
Beyond that, guys like Frank Jackson, I think he becomes expendable after this year because of what's available in free agency and what you can get in the draft.
You can get someone like him. You can find people. You can find shooters off the bench that can just come in and
that stay healthy a little bit more.
Yeah.
Carson Edwards, yes, he's technically signed for next year, but I don't see him being a huge piece. Kojo, no.
Do you want him to stay on next year though? Do you want to see a little more of him?
Yeah, kind of. I liked him in college quite a bit.
Yeah.
He could be a spark plug scorer off the bench.
Exactly.
Braxton Key showed some moments. I think he'll get a run. I think he'll get an opportunity to show himself and maybe give himself a roster. Magruder, I think, is done. Olynyk, I think he'll be here, but I don't know about long term. Saban Lee is a guy I'd put down in pencil also, just because of what he's done in the G League. But I don't know that he's ever going to make actually a big part of this roster. Beyond that, though, I like Luka Garza, no. But go ahead. Give me who you think is on this roster.
For me, I agree. It's Sadiq Bey and Kate Cunningham. Those are your 2 core pieces right now. I do. The reason I'm not including like Isaiah Stewart on that list is there's still more growth that I need to see from before I say he's a core piece.
And the fact that, like, depending on who they draft, Isaiah Stewart his role may be diminished greatly.
Yeah. 100%. But just in general, like, I think that Sadiq Bey and Kate Cunningham are your core pieces. I do feel
plus your draft pick this year.
Plus your draft pick this year. Yep, unless your draft pick busts somehow. But
well, if it does, then frankly, this whole thing's dead.
Yep. I do feel like Isaiah Stewart, Killian Hayes, and Marvin Bagley have an ability to play their way into that core next season if they continue to improve. But right now,
Killian's got a long way to go.
The only two people that we'll put it this way: the only two people I'm not trading on this team at the moment are Sadiq Bey and Kay Cunningham.
Oh, 100%. Those guys are my untouchable. I can't say untouchable. Everybody's
there is a package you could put together for Sadiq.
Everybody's got a price, but
unless you're literally giving me one of the
unless you're trading me Luka Doncic.
Yeah, exactly.
I'd take Luka.
I'll take Luka.
Or Jason Tatum. I'd take him too. But those are the guys I would say are as close to untouchable with this roster as you can get.
Mm-hmm. That was another. I had this conversation with my cousin over the weekend. If you were having just a complete redraft for the entire league, you're factoring in age, all that stuff. Who are the first 5 picks in that draft?
Oh, I love this. I love this conversation because I have this conversation in that Discord group that I'm in. I have that conversation with them all the time, and frankly, my number 1 pick is Luka. Honestly, my number 2. I probably gotta say either Tatum or Jokic.
The 3 that we immediately jumped in on were Luka, Tatum, and Giannis, and then Jokic got thrown in.
Giannis is up there too, absolutely.
Then Jokic got thrown in, and then we really struggled with a 5th. Embiid got thrown out.
Embiid would be. I think Embiid should be number 5. I absolutely think Embiid should be number 5. Notice how none of those picks are point guards.
Well, Luka is.
He's a 3, but sure.
He
masquerades as a point guard. He's every bit as much of a point guard.
Is Cade a lottery pick?
I was actually going to ask you, was Cade a first-round pick?
I think Cade's a lottery pick.
You think he's a lottery pick?
Mm-hmm. You factor into age, his potential, and what he's already done. I think he's a
lot of good young talent in this league, man.
Yeah.
A lot of good young talent in this league.
For example, right now, are you taking Cade or are you taking Donovan Mitchell?
Cade, but I'm talking guys like Ja Morant. I'd probably take Ja.
Yeah. Again, I said lottery pick. There's 9 more guys you can take before we talk about 8, 9 guys you can take before we talk about
Trae Young or Cade?
Oof. Recency bias makes you want to say Cade because of what Trae Young just did in the playoffs, but I think I got to go Trae Young.
I'd go Trae Young.
Recency bias out the window.
In this league. And then you also got to understand, even though they're a little bit older, guys like Steph Curry can't be ignored. Devin Booker, he's a guy I'd probably take over Cade. 25 years old, the way he's played. I'd probably take Cade over Spida, yeah.
Who are you taking first, Cade or LaMelo?
Cade. I like LaMelo. I think Cade's a better ball player than LaMelo Ball. And I like LaMelo Ball. I like his game quite a bit.
All right, pivoting to another topic here real quick.
God, I like that topic. Ooh, I like that one. That one is sizzling.
We could do a whole show on that.
Oh, topic. Hell yeah, we could.
Just draft the whole first round. I mean, one guy that a lot of Pistons fans seem to want us to throw the bag at this offseason is Miles Bridges. I'm curious where you are on that.
There's 2 names that have actually been thrown out.
Yeah, Ayton is the other one, but Bridges is the one I want to talk about.
So, the question I've seen posed a lot is, would you be willing to throw a max contract at either one of these guys?
Which is probably going to take for both.
Yes. Bridges, yes. Ayton, I don't know. There was another name that I've seen people say throw 20 mil at. It was Jalen Brunson was the other name. Throw 20 mil at him and see if the Mavs balk at it or not.
Did his price just go up after dropping a 40 piece in the playoffs?
My only issue with Jalen Brunson is, does the dude do anything but score?
That's all we want. We just want someone to score alongside Cade.
Yeah, but can he do it off ball? He's 6 feet tall.
Yeah.
Jalen Brunson's scoring nights all come when Luka's not there.
Yeah, like last night?
Yeah. He's 6'1", and I understand Cade being 6'6", makes that irrelevant, but I don't know. Anyways, that's irrelevant. But, well, actually, would you rather? Let's play a little game of would you rather.
Wait. Let's listen about Miles Bridges for a second.
All right.
we're throwing too many topics out at once.
Bridges. All right, Miles Bridges. It would absolutely depend on what we get in this draft. Where we land, what we get. If we get Jaden Ivey, yeah, a guy like Miles Bridges comes to mind, because then you move Sadiq to the 4, Bridges to the 3, Ivey to the 2, or Mathurin, and Cade at the 1 with Stewart at the 5. Yeah, things get a little sexy there. That's titillating. If you get Chet Holmgren, even then it's still a little bit exciting, because Sadiq 4, Chet, or I don't know about Chet at the 5. Then maybe not. My point is,
I think I'm hesitant to throw the bag at Miles Bridges because of Sadiq. I don't know if I like the look of Miles Bridges and Sadiq playing alongside each other. Their skill sets are too similar. Outside of Miles Bridges brings a little bit more added athleticism,
and that's why I'm okay with it, because Bridges is a lot more of a is capable of driving the basket quite a bit more than Sadiq. Their skill sets are similar, but Bridges brings an added athleticism that we wanted in Hamidou Diallo. You got to remember that. We wanted Diallo to be that guy. Well, Bridges can fill that role. That athleticism that we don't have in the starting 5, because we don't have the athleticism, and Bridges brings that.
That's what I'm hoping to get with a guy like Jaden Ivey, for example.
Right, which but could you imagine Jaden Ivey and Bridges going up with that type of athleticism, and then you add in Sadiq and Cade's shooting and Cade's ability to just back any guard down? I'll tell you right now, Cade will be the best post guard in the NBA.
I think he already is one of the best post guards.
Exactly.
Let me put it this way. I am
Bridges
way more in. If we're gonna throw
me.
the bag at somebody, I'm way more in on Ayton and Brunson than I am on Bridges.
I don't want to throw the bag of Brunson.
I'm starting to think it's what it's going to take also if you're trying to get Brunson.
I'll pass. If I have to throw a max contract at Jalen Brunson, I'll pass. 100% pass. Hard pass.
Yeah, because now there's our teams trying to get Brunson too.
Right.
Where we are not alone.
I will top out on Brunson at $20 million. I'll top out at a Jeremy Grant contract for Jalen Brunson. That's my max for him. Miles Bridges, I'd be willing to consider. I'm not saying I'm going to give it to him. I'd be willing to consider giving him a max contract. I would not for Jalen Brunson. No, thank you.
Would you for Ayton?
My conundrum with Ayton is it fills a need more. And this one is
it gives us a third big that's also a defensive liability.
I don't think Ayton's as much of a defensive liability as Bagley is, though. Ayton's far more serviceable defensively than a guy like Bagley, and honestly, I think he's far more serviceable. His defense
has improved since his rookie season.
I would say he would be the best defending big man we'd have on the team.
I still think Isaiah Stewart is, but
Isaiah Stewart's good at blocking shots. He gets abused by pretty bad.
I think pound for pound, Isaiah Stewart.
Okay, pound for pound, sure, but Isaiah Stewart's 6'8" and gets abused by the likes of Andre Drummond. And I'm not, it's not fair, but Joel Embiid just destroys him every time. Embiid could straight up put up 50 on Isaiah Stewart.
Embiid destroys pretty much anybody.
Yes, it's especially true with Isaiah Stewart, but. I don't necessarily think that same matchup mismatch is there if you have Ayton. Mm-hmm. And I think that has a lot to do with the size factor. Mm-hmm. I think Ayton is just a little more serviceable for what you need defensively down low. I like Isaiah Stewart as a player, and I like him, his defensive abilities. I just don't think he's I don't think he's big enough. Yeah. But... It really depends on what we get in the draft with Ayton. I think he's far more reliant on what we get in the draft than Bridges because of the fact that, say we draft Chet Holmgren, I don't think we go after Ayton. I don't think we need to, and I don't think we should. Say we draft Jabari Smith, I also don't think we should. Say we draft Paolo Banchero, I don't think we should, unless we're willing to move on from Isaiah Stewart at that point.
If we draft Paolo Banchero, I am 100% out of Miles Bridges. Then there really isn't any spot for him on the roster.
Yeah, I'd be if we draft Banchero, I'm out on both of those guys, on Ayton and Bridges at that point. But it's harder for me to fit a roster together when you have guys, all three of Jabari Smith, Paolo Banchero, up along with Sadiq Bey and Isaiah Stewart and DeAndre Ayton. It's harder for me to fit that roster together than it is for me to fit Miles Bridges into something with those guys.
It sounds like you're on the same boat as me and a bunch of team-friendly deals this offseason, and then move some money around and try to make as much room as possible for 2023.
Which, isn't that the free agent class that has Devin Booker in it? Granted, I really don't think he's going anywhere.
I want to say Booker's actually 2024.
Is he? Okay. Either way.
2023 is a significantly better free agency class.
Yes, it is. Your cream of the crop is Ayton and Bridges this year. Which, that's okay. I think Bridges, knowing what we probably get in this draft, I think Bridges probably fits with this team a lot more than Ayton would, unless we went guard in the draft. Like, if we go Mathurin or Ivy, Ayton fits. No question about it. But
yeah, Devin Booker would be my dream to pair with Kate if we could make that happen.
I think we could have had him.
Yeah, we could have.
Shit, Donovan Mitchell with Cade would be awesome.
All right, my last question for you on the Pistons, and I don't know if you have anything else to close it out, but with the Portland Trailblazers, with the New Orleans Pelicans winning the playoff play-in game against the Clippers, they now retain their pick. Does not go to Portland. All Portland has is their own pick. How much does this decrease likelihood of them trading for Jeremy Grant?
I think it decreases it quite a bit, actually, because
that was what I thought was going to be in play.
I think it decreases it quite a bit because I don't think they're willing to give up their only pick to go get Jeremy Grant. I think they were hoping to have a combination of Jeremy Grant, Damian Lillard, and the guy they get in the lottery in this draft.
Yeah.
Like I think that's what they were hoping for. Now that they didn't have that happen, they're probably scrambling to figure out what the hell to do.
I want to go find the guy who gave Paul George COVID. Because he just completely derailed the Pistons' future.
He potentially could have.
Talk about butterfly effect.
Yeah, I'll say. He potentially could have. I think it absolutely hurts the Pistons in that.
Your decision to go to the movies has derailed the team's future on the other side of the country.
My last question for you, and then we can close it out with this.
Yep.
Looking at the three names in free agency between, or I'll even make it a little more harder. Little more difficult.
Yeah. Okay.
Jalen Brunson at $22.5 million a year for 4 years. Miles Bridges max, Ayton max, or Mitchell Robinson at $15 a year. Which one you taking? And you can only take one.
I hate you. All right. First one off the list will be Bridges max.
You are anti-Bridges max.
Yeah. I mean, it's weird for someone, a Spartan fan, to say this, but I do think he's a little bit overrated. But
see, I disagree. I actually think he's a little underrated.
Yeah.
I think he's underrated. What he's done with Charlotte is because Terry Rozier does not impress me at all. I think he is like, if we want to say Sadiq Bey is inconsistent, go watch Terry Rozier play basketball. He's inconsistent to an extreme, and he's far more often not good than he is good. And Bridges has to make up for that and tends to more often than not. And remember, you're not asking him to be the number one guy either.
Yeah, if I could guarantee that Mitchell Robinson would stay healthy, it would be Mitchell Robinson. But you can't. And he can't. He cannot stay healthy to save his life. So as much as I want to lean team-friendly deal on a player that's a fantastic fit, what
do you do with Stewart if you get a guy like Robinson, though?
I can play Stewart the 4 alongside Robinson. Robinson's a true 5 the whole way.
So your front court is so at that point, your front court is just entirely a net of scoring and shooting.
It's going to be Robinson at the 5 and like rotating between Bagley and Stewart the 4, and then sometimes one of them will slide into the 5.
So your front court is
sits.
entirely a net of shooting.
Yeah. Well, hey, both Bagley and Stewart have shut off a 3-ball in the last weeks this season.
Taking 1 or 2 shots a game at a 32% clip. Woo!
But anyway, part of it's a team fit, part of it is a team friendly deal. But if I don't think I've seen Mitchell Robinson play 60 games in a season. So
I can tell you if he has. I don't think he has.
I'm gonna have to just say no deal.
I'll tell you right now, I'm out on Robinson, 100%. Yeah. I don't think he fits. Robinson has played 60 games 3 times in his career. Actually, of his 4 years, he's played over 60 3 times.
Has he played 65?
Twice.
Oh shit! Has he played 70?
Once this year.
No way he played 70.
This year he played 72 games.
I had him on my fantasy team. He did not play 70.
He played 72 games. Started 62. Played 72 games.
So.
With a stat line of 8.5 points and 8.5 boards.
Yeah.
Woo.
That leaves me with Brunson.
He did shoot 76% from the from inside. He only
shoots like 3 feet from the rim.
From the field.
That leaves me with Brunson and Ayton. Remind me, how much is a max contract now?
A lot of money. It depends on the player's tenure in the league. I really couldn't tell you.
Because I'm thinking it's high 30s. I just don't know if I'm off or not.
High 30s.
Considering the bigs that are available in this draft, I'm going to go Brunson at $22 million of those 4.
4 year, $220.6 million. Oh,
that's more than 30. That's more than high 30s.
55.15 a year. What?
There's no. That's got to be a super max.
Hang on.
Nah, but I'm going Brunson 22 mil.
What about Brunson at 25?
Hey, stop pushing it.
I'm trying to figure out what your cap is, because honestly,
that is about my cap.
22 or 25?
22.
Because mine's right around 20. I may be willing to stretch it to 22 to get Brunson.
If you had said Brunson and gave me a number in the high teens, I wouldn't have even. I wouldn't even have
hesitated at that point. I would have taken him all day. My only,
but because it's a little higher than I'm comfortable paying Brunson, I want to think through the other options.
My only
first.
concern with going with a guy like Brunson is it lessens your options in the draft. So, if you have Jalen Brunson, you can't go Mathurin, you can't go Jaden Ivey.
I'm of the belief that you can.
Good luck playing defense. With a 6'1" and a 6'3" guard, with 6'1" and 6'3" guards.
Mathurin can play defense.
How tall is Mathurin?
6'6".
He's 6'6". All right, Mathurin, you probably can. Whoever is having to guard the 3, I feel bad for you.
Jay and Ivy, is going to be that. It would be hard to fit if you have Jalen Brunson.
Mathurin, if Mathurin's asked to guard a 3 in this league at 6'6",
but then
that 3 is going to have a fun time.
Then you can also make the argument
if they are able to score it all.
It's like if you land Jabari Smith or Chet Holmgren, that's going to make it a tough fit with Ayton, for example.
Right, it does with Ayton and Stewart. It makes it a tough fit, yes, because it does.
Less so Jabari than Chet. Jabari probably spends his whole time at 3-point line anyways.
Right. Chet, you could
That's
play
what
at the
scares
4
me about Jabari.
Fine.
It's really what scares me about it.
I know. But Chet, you could play at the 4 just fine. And you could have Ayton at the 5. But then what do you do with Isaiah Stewart? And if you're doing that, I firmly believe you're letting Bagley walk.
Yeah.
So let me ask you this. Would you rather throw $35 million a year at Ayton, or would you rather re-sign Marvin Bagley at about 18? And I think that's actually higher than what Marvin Bagley will get, frankly. I think Bagley's probably somewhere in the 12 to 15 range.
Yeah, because I was about to say re-sign Bagley until you said 18. I was like, wait, well, okay. You said Ayton at 35?
Yep.
Or Bagley at 18? I got to go Ayton at 35. I feel that's a pretty good deal for Ayton.
All right, 8 and 40, because that's probably what you're going to get.
No, I'm going Bagley.
All right, fair. You're just mortgaging every offensive or every defensive look next year, aren't you? You're willing to throw defense out the window.
I'm getting 8 at 35 mil. I'm taking 8.
Yeah. Well, 8 I think would be better defensively than Bagley.
Yeah.
Anyways. The Pistons are obviously in a conundrum this offseason. They've got a lot of options and a lot of ways they can go with it. Yeah. And it is obviously very crucial. They've got the money. I would like to see them trade Jeremy Grant. I would like to see them make a signing of some sort. I don't necessarily mean it needs to be a max, but I'd like at least a splash in free agency. That's all. So, with that being said, that is going to call it for this week, guys. Thank you for listening, and sorry we missed last week. Scheduling conflicts, Andrew, thank you for joining me. Thank you to Detroit Sports Podcast, as always. Follow us on Twitter, @RealFanReport, and we will catch you guys next week. This has been the Fan Reporters. Bye, fans.
For fans.
Have a good one, guys. Cade is the Rookie of the Year. No doubt about it. We'll see you next week.
Oh, yeah, we didn't even talk about that. Peace out.
Peace.